we don't have music this morning. What the heck is going on? Well, good morning to everybody who is here. Welcome to the Ungovernables, the Captain's Crew. Let's hit it. There we go. I don't know where that went, why that got muted, but it's okay. Good morning to everybody. Welcome to the Ungovernables, the Captain's Crew, the LFA family, McGroy Nation, coming to you live from the deep red state of Tennessee, from, as Brennan called it, soggy Murfreesboro. This morning, welcome to Ungoverned. Happy to be here on a Thursday. We got a lot to deal with today. Obviously, the main theme of the show is going to be that the DNC is broke, so we'll have a little bit of fun with that. I wonder how that could have happened. Why would the DNC be broke? Could it happen? Could it be Oak Island? Could it be Wood? The DNC is out of money? Could it be USAID was shut down and all that money went into the riots with no return on investment? No way. Templars, baby. Right? Somebody over there on Oak Island will say it was the Romans. No, I don't know. I love that show. You know me. I love that show. But we will get to that. It is... I want to start with this, actually, because, I would be lying if I said I didn't post this to be a little provocative, right? Sometimes you know what I figured out, too, by the way? Provocative is the sophisticated word for trolling on the internet, right? Provocative. So I posted this today, and because it's true, okay? Because it's true. Juneteenth, which is today, is the DEI hire of federal holidays. Oh my gosh, you didn't just say that. That's racist. It's not racist. It is the DEI hire of federal holidays. Why are people who are DEI hires hired in the first place? Not because of merit, not because of what they can bring to the company, because of external factors, skin color, race, gender, sexuality, all that. Now, Juneteenth is referred to as Abolition Day. From what I understand about the story, Juneteenth, it's the day that a lot of former black slaves in the South found out that the Civil War had ended and that there was no longer slavery. But that's not why it became a federal holiday. So I'm not saying that celebrating the end of slavery isn't a worthy thing to celebrate. Slavery was a stain on our country. It is an evil. It has been abolished. There is no more slavery in this country the way it was, back in the 1860s, etc. There's other types of slavery, but there's not that type of slavery, unless you count the illegal alien slave labor on the farms, which hopefully gets, dealt with soon. So you want to say it's about the end of slavery? Fine. I have no problem with that. The issue is that's not why it was made a federal holiday. It was never about the cause. Just like taking Aunt Jemima off of a syrup bottle was never about ending racism. Just like taking Uncle Ben's off the packaging wasn't about ending racism. Just like changing the name of the Washington Redskins or the Cleveland Indians or taking Mia off of the butter, the Land O'Lakes butter, wasn't about ending racism or ending discrimination. It's a total virtue signal. The reason why Juneteenth was made a federal holiday wasn't to commemorate the end of slavery or celebrate Abolition Day. It was to virtue signal. It was to pander. It was to divide. Right? How many times do we hear Gary, Great McGroin in the chat? He made a great tweet this morning. I reposted it, quote tweeted it. And I'm going to quote it here. He's at Gary L. McKay 1 on X. We've been given a Black National Anthem, Black History Month, Juneteenth, which is called Black Independence Day. It's all about division. It's all about division. I'm not saying we don't want to, if it culturally means something to you to celebrate the end of slavery, that's all good and great. That's not why it's a federal holiday. It's a federal holiday. It was made a federal holiday in the wake of the 2020 woke social justice warrior, racial injustice, oppression, oppressors, CRT, DEI movement to virtue signal. That's why it's a federal holiday. It's not a federal holiday because of what the day actually stands for culturally. On that note, I say happy Juneteenth. All right. Happy Juneteenth. Yeah. All right. That'll be the last we talk about Juneteenth today. We've got so much to get to. We are going to lead with a story outside of the Middle East today. The DNC is out of money because we have some fun things that we can poke about and talk about there. And I don't want to say I told you so, but I told you so. Now you lost control. The Offspring, Rise and Fall. It's a shame because they rose and they fell. They're woke, but I still love their music because it just gets me going. Plus, it's fun to mow the lawn listening to the Offspring because they're just screaming and it's great. I told you so about Candace Owens and Myron Gaines, did I not? We'll get to that in a second. Candace completely coming unraveled yesterday, showing everybody why we call them the woke right. So we'll get to that. We do have some Middle East stuff to get to, of course, because that is on the radar. I was kind of getting tired of every single day, the Middle East. But we are going to talk about it. It's not going to lead with it. And great news out of the Supreme Court yesterday. Everybody in the chat, get your thank you Tennessee posts ready because Tennessee just did your country a major favor. Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti, Solicitor General Rice, and the Tennessee General Assembly and Tennessee Senate having the courage to do what so few states have done. They did it in 2023. We'll talk about that in just a second. Before we get to that, I want to get to a word from our friends over at OFP Farms. OFPfarms.com. OFPfarms.com. They are a family-owned and operated, patriotic, America First, God-fearing goat farm in Northern California. They provide quality goat milk products for everyday use. Their large collection of goat milk products are enriched with vital nutrients of essential vitamins, minerals, and fatty acids to promote optimal skin health. The Outlaw Soap, this is basically optimal skin health in a beautiful, patriotic package with Donald Trump's mugshot on it. That's why it's the Outlaw. And it'll leave you smelling like a felon, right? OFPfarms.com. Not only are their goat milk products and lip balms top-notch, they carry so many other products that would be helpful for you in your everyday life, including, like I said, their lip balms. Goat Kisses Lip Balm. We love it. OFP Farms can proudly boast thousands of 5-star reviews on their wide variety of products. So go ahead. Slather on that goat milk goodness and head over to OFPfarms.com today. OFPfarms.com. OFPfarms.com. It's Oscar Foxtrot PapaFarms.com. Check it out. It's right there on your screen. OFPfarms.com. Promo code SHAWN. That's promo code Sean for 15% off of your entire order. OFPfarms.com. 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 All right. We are going to move into the DNC being out of money in just a second. Is anybody feeling the like you got a case of the coincidences this morning? Anybody feeling that? When you heard this story, did you start scratching yourself being like, oh my gosh, I'm breaking out into a giant coincidence? You believe in the coincidence like this anymore? So USAID went by the wayside. Massive amount of money getting funneled into the riots in Los Angeles. Massive amount of money being funneled into the No Kings protests and the hands-off protests and all this other crap. Anybody seem to think it's now a coincidence that the DNC says they're bankrupt? Chew on that for a second. Just chew on that for a second, because I don't believe in coincidence. Fonda with a good comment. Yeah. The DNC started supporting the 20% issues. It's all on them. I agree. 100% agree. If the Red Cross, I know they're not a great example, but if a charity that let's say a charity, right? A charity that you support, and you believe your money is going to a worthy cause, right? You believe your money is going to a worthy cause. And that charity reverses course on you and starts giving your money to a cause that is not worthy, right? Let's go out on a limb and say there is a pro-life organization, right? Pro-life organization that is collecting money to help find ways away from abortion, right? to encourage mothers to carry the baby to term, to encourage mothers to have the child. And even if she doesn't want the child, then you can adopt it away. But at least life wins, right? And then you find out that that charity has decided to turn around and take all of your money and donate it to Planned Parenthood or to abortion clinics. You would stop donating. And I think that's what Fonda is getting at, right? The Democrats pretended to be the party of the middle class for a long time. They pretended to be the party of, quote unquote, racial justice and equality, when in all actuality, the mask came off and they weren't the party of racial justice. They were the party of racial identity, right? Segregation, injustice, okay? And they were the party not of equality, but of equity. People saw that. They're the party of illegal aliens. We'll get to that in a second. Before we go head first into the DNC losing money, I want to talk to you about Silent, brand new sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, check these guys and gals out over at Silent. It's slnt.com/Sean, SHAWN, for 15% off. Between the government, big tech, right? The corporate America, criminals, your privacy is compromised 24/7. There's no other option. You have to protect yourself, and that starts with Silent. Silent's Faraday products block all incoming and outgoing signals so that your devices are invisible and safe from the outside world. From their backpacks, their phone sleeves, even their pants. Faraday pants. Come on. Patented signal blocking technology blocks wireless signals, giving you peace of mind that your data does not end up in the wrong hands. Just place your device inside, close it, and that's all you have to do. You are safeguarded from unauthorized access. Go silent today at slnt.com/Sean, slnt.com/Sean, Sierra, Lima, November, Tango.com/SHAWN, Sierra Hotel Alpha Whiskey November, for 15% off of everything they've got to offer here and free shipping on qualified orders. Silent.com/Sean, SHAWN. That's silent, slnt.com/Sean, SHAWN. All right. I'm going to sip the tea, not spill the tea. And let's move on to the DNC. A report came out of the New York Times yesterday. I know. Can we trust the New York Times? Well, generally, no. Generally, I would say, no, we don't want to trust the New York Times, right? However, a lot of the times that we don't trust the New York Times is when they come out with some sort of, scoop about Donald Trump, or they're running with another hoax. I don't see the advantage the New York Times and the left gets by reporting on this story the way they're reporting on it. The Democrat Party is in chaos, plagued by infighting, which we saw with the David Hogg stuff, and quickly going broke. The New York Times is reporting that the Democrat Party is much more of a mess than anybody seems to realize. According to the story, party leadership is in a state of ongoing chaos. There's a major problem with infighting among various members and party factions, but perhaps worst of all for Democrats, the party is quickly going broke and may have to start borrowing money just to continue simple day-to-day operations. As Fonda mentioned before, it's easy to guess why donors are not lining up to hand over their cash to the party. Democrats blew through a stunning $2 billion or more in the 2024 election, and almost nobody is happy about the way the money was spent. You mean to tell me, Democrats, that when you donated to the DNC and the Democrat Party, you weren't happy to see Oprah walking away with hundreds of thousands of dollars? You mean to tell me that you didn't pay for Megan Thee Stallion to shake her ass in front of people on a stage in Atlanta? You mean to tell me that you didn't pay for Beyonce, not even to perform, but to come out and be like, I love Kamala Harris? You mean to tell me that you didn't pay? You didn't want your money to go to Cardi B making one of the most ridiculous... I'm going to say something. Kamala Harris, the future of our country. You mean to tell me you didn't pay for that? You didn't want your money to go to that? You must be a racist if you don't want to empower women of color like Oprah and Beyonce and Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion and Kamala Harris. Not to mention, as Fonda mentioned in the chat before, they're on the 20 side of every 80-20 issue. This is what I mean. This is what I mean. My former stomping grounds. Those of you in New York in the chat, have you guys seen this? Those of you in New York in the chat, let me know if you're from New York in the chat. Let me know if you're from New York in the chat, okay? Any New Yorkers in there? I know there's a few. Some folks from Long Island, some folks from upstate, maybe some folks from the city. Any New Yorkers in the chat? Let me know. Let us know in the live chat if you're from New York. Yeah, my Cardi B does need I can't sound that much like an idiot. I'm sorry. It's hard for me. It's hard for me. Right? Anybody in the live chat from New York? I'm gonna go swing over to X and see if there's any New Yorkers in our live chat over there. By the way, if you're watching over on X, hit the repost button. We greatly appreciate it. If you're watching anywhere else, Roku, anywhere else, go ahead and share this with your friends. Drop us a comment. A lot of New Yorkers. All right, let's put this in here. New York. Okay, so for those of you who live in New York, you know who the governor is, right? It's the Bucktooth Bandit. Now we've rebranded her as of yesterday with Michael Patrick Leahy. She's the Bucktooth Botox Bandit of New York, right? Have you seen? She's got the drip going on. She's like this. The eyebrows are like sagging, lower than Nancy Pelosi's. Never mind. It's just. Did you see what I did there?
Nancy's titty.
Oh, shh. She's over there. That's not what Brendan said. Nobody heard that. She was talking about she mispronounced a name of a baseball player, Fernando Tatis. Yes, lower than that. Yes. Brendan got it. Brendan, do your hang low. Do they wobble? Oh, we have to have a little fun. Your governor is the Bucktooth Botox Bandit, Kathy Hochul, right? She's got, almost the worst case of the teeth as Stacey Abrams, who, by the way, if you dropped Stacey Abrams on the Fordow nuclear facility in Iran as one of the bunker busters, because of the whistle, Stacey Abrams, the beast of the Middle East. Kathy Hochul said she wanted to do this. So, a lot of people in New York they would like, and I don't blame you, okay? Because obviously we all want to pay as little in taxes as possible. But the whole state and local tax thing, right, the SALT stuff that Mike Lawler and all these people are, trying to increase the limits in the big, beautiful bill. Your state and local taxes in New York, not only are they going to nonsense, social justice programs and being wasted on, many, many other things, but they're also going to this. Here's what the Bucktooth Botox Bandit, Kathy Hochul from Buffalo, the Bucktooth Botox Bandit of Buffalo, had to say about, this mayoral candidate, was it Lander or something, got arrested because he was trying to, obstruct ICE. Here's where Kathy Hochul wants to send your money for those of you in New York. Watch this.
That are walking out of this courthouse, taken away from their families. They don't have the attention. They don't have the lawyers. And that's why the state of New York is providing $50 million to cover legal services for people who are finding themselves in this situation.
$50 million to cover the legal services of illegal aliens, Kathy Hochul. So while I sympathize, with those who are screwed in these blue states, specifically like New York, California, places like this, while I sympathize with you and your taxes are way too high, that is a state issue. And now that I've found out that the tax money that you pay into the system in New York is going to fund the legal services for illegal aliens, I don't want a dime added on to the state and local tax deduction at the federal level. Because then essentially, I'm still subsidizing the BS that I left when I got out of New York. And I don't want to do it. I left New York. Brennan and I fled. We got the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Because we were done. Every dollar that we make, we got to give a portion to Kathy Hochul? No. Hell no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But now they're trying to do it again. Nope, that's not going to happen. At the federal level, that's not going to happen. This is what we're talking about when we say the Democrats are on the 20 part, or Fonda was saying when the Democrats are on the 20 side of the 80-20 issues. Nobody wants to fund the legal challenges of illegal aliens. And by the way, if you do, Kathy Hochul, how about you donate some of your money and stop donating the people's money in New York that don't want to do that, right? You can't just give 50. Just imagine the audacity, just how tone deaf you have to be with the rest of the country, not necessarily with people in New York City and the wokies that live in some of these, enclaves in New York. But imagine, these people, they don't belong here. They came here illegally. They committed a crime when they came here illegally. And now you're going to pay not just for their housing and their transportation and their food and their vehicles and their phones and their health care. You're going to now pay for their lawyers? What? That's what we're talking about when we say you wonder why the DNC is out of money. Because they're taking stands like this. This is not a popular stance with the American people. It may be popular in large population centers in the state of New York, but it's not popular with the American people. You wonder why the DNC is out of money. Because they've taken the side of illegal aliens instead of American citizens. So an illegal alien who comes into New York likely is not paying taxes, is not paying for food, is not paying for shelter, is not paying for health care, is not paying for communication, is not paying for transportation, and now is not going to be paying for legal representation? Who's got it better than illegals in New York? Nobody. You see the riots breaking out in Los Angeles and places all around the country. It's no wonder why Donald Trump had to deploy the National Guard, which, by the way, good news on that front as well. The Trump administration's deployment of the National Guard to shut down the Los Angeles riots are likely to be upheld by an appeals court. Good, as we mentioned, by the way. Title 10, standing strong. Title 10, standing strong. I didn't even realize this existed until I read this piece in the Post Millennial. Judge Sung told the state that the 1827 case, there was a Supreme Court precedent, Martin versus Mott in 1827, is the precedent. Here it is. During the War of 1812, President James Madison called up state militias under the Militia Act of 1795 to defend against British forces. Jacob E. Mott, a New York militia member, refused to report for duty, arguing that the federal call-up was unconstitutional or improper. The United States government fined Mott, and he challenged it in court. The Supreme Court unanimously ruled against Mott and upheld the president's authority to determine when a militia call-up is necessary. The president has sole discretion to decide if an invasion or insurrection exists that justifies activating the militia. When you go back to the language of Title 10, it's the exact same language. But there's also another caveat that says if regular forces and regular resources cannot execute federal law, the president is well within his right to call up the National Guard, to federalize the National Guard, to protect, only play defense, federal property, federal assets, and federal buildings. Which is exactly what the National Guard, the United States Marines, are doing in Los Angeles, and they have to do in sanctuary cities and cities across the country. Why? Because when you post them up in front of a federal building, which is something that apparently airhead Elijah Schaffer has no idea. He was like, oh my gosh, this guy defines woke right. Okay, Elijah Schaffer. Okay. All right? We're not even going to go down the Me Too road because I don't know about anything about those allegations. This Elijah Schaffer clown, if you guys follow this guy, let him know that I said he's a clown because I embarrassed him in his comments the other day. Thoroughly embarrassed him because he's a hypocrite. He took a video outside of Los Angeles and he's been butthurt ever since I did this to him because Elijah Schaffer is somebody who believes the internet is real life. So I guess you can call it ratio. I ratioed him in his. So he took he's hurt, like literally depressed over this right now and like furious that he's now screenshotting my tweets and is like, oh, this guy's so stupid. Like, just shut up. Would you please? Okay. This guy is such an airhead. He went outside the federal building in Los Angeles and saw the Marines pushing back against protesters who were trespassing on federal property. What are the Marines allowed to do under Title 10? Chat, we made you experts in Title 10 last week, right? The Marines are allowed to protect federal property and use necessary force if they themselves are threatened, self-defense, or in defense of the property that they were deployed to secure. These rioters were making contact with the Marines. These rioters were trespassing on federal property. So the Marines were doing what they are legally allowed and, by the way, what they were assigned to do in Los Angeles. And they were clearing the rioters off of the federal property. Schaefer made it out to be like the Marines had militarized the situation and it was this big ugly thing. You would think Elijah Schaefer was auditioning for a job at MSNBC. And then he had the nerve when I said that's not what's going on. They are allowed and authorized to do this under Title 10. He had the nerve to say, well, you're not out here. You're not risking anything. You don't get to comment. Oh, okay. So by that standard, Elijah Schaefer shouldn't say another word about Gaza then, should he? Because he's not out there. And even his own followers in that whole bit were like, dude, you need to go outside and like touch grass and just log off for a little bit. This is stupid. The Marines, the National Guard, under Title 10, are allowed to use necessary force, not offensively, but defensively. If their task was to guard a federal building and somebody trespasses on that property, they are allowed to use necessary force. In this case, all they had was their shields, and they were pushing the people off of the property that they were not lawfully allowed to be on. That's all that was happening in this video. Back to this case, though, in 1827, the president has sole discretion. This is from the Supreme Court decision. The president has sole discretion to decide if an invasion or insurrection exists that justifies activating the militia. This decision is conclusive upon all other persons, according to the ruling, the Supreme Court decision, meaning neither courts nor states can second guess the president's judgment when it comes to federalizing state militias. The Militia Act of 1795 gave the president this broad discretion, and the judiciary had no power to review it. Now, that is why posse comitatus was implemented, because you don't want the federal government to have broad control over the military and just, hey, we got to bring them up. So they've said, okay, you can federalize the military, you can call up state militias, but they can't perform law enforcement activities unless it's in defense of these federal properties, assets, or themselves. Martin versus Mott is often cited to support the idea that the president's power to federalize the National Guard is nearly absolute in the case of rebellion or national emergency. And that's why Donald Trump's deployment to the National Guard is going to stand. There is precedent. It will stand. Anybody who's freaking out over this whole thing needs to chill, because they're wrong about it. Martin versus Mott, 1827, is one of the foundational Supreme Court rulings on presidential authority over what he can do with the National Guard. So that ship is going to sail, and Gavin Newsom is going to get smacked down again. All right. Quick break, and then we got to get to the woke right, because it has spiraled. You thought it was bad before. And yes, I'm going to continue to take victory laps, and I'm going to continue to tell you I told you so when it comes to people like Candace Owens, because the next time, and Myron Gaines, by the way, because the next time I do it, I don't want to hear boo from anybody. Oh, you're being a divider. Oh, they're on our side. Focus on the left. They are the left. And if they're not the left, they're certainly not on our side. You know, I'm okay with disagreement so long as it's civil. I love having conversations so long as it's civil and we can discuss issues. What Candace Owens did yesterday and what Myron Gaines said yesterday confirms what we were saying all along. It's not about Israel. It's not about America first. It's about themselves and it's about Jews. I don't call people, listen, there are people who will seek battles out with others on social media for clout and the followers that they can gain. I don't do that. I don't care. I appreciate everybody who found it necessary to click the follow button on my account. Thank you for being there. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I don't post about people, other people on social media so that I can gain followers. I do it because I think they're a danger to what we're trying to accomplish. And that was confirmed yesterday, not by me, by themselves. I'll show you what I'm talking about. And this is why we call them the woke right. Ladies and gentlemen, mypatriotsupply.com. Blackout season is upon us. Hurricane season is upon us. Severe season over the in the plains in Dixie Alley is still upon us. It's getting hot out there. You ever notice, by the way, whether it's a heat wave, a summer storm, too many people using the AC at once, as soon as you need the power the most, it goes out. Always seems to go out when you need it the most, right? Well, mypatriotsupply.com and the Grid Doctor 3300 can help prevent and protect against that. Folks, check out the Grid Doctor 3300 solar generator from My Patriot Supply. This thing is an absolute beast. It is 3,300 watts of off-grid power that keeps your fridge, your freezer, your lights, even your medical devices running whenever the power grid fails. And right now, they have an amazing deal going on. When you get the Grid Doctor 3300 solar generator, they will throw in 2 waterproof 200-watt solar panels completely free, meaning you can charge this bad boy for free with the solar panels. And they're not the cheap garbage solar panels that you get from China. They're not cheap plastic panels. They are super durable, waterproof, and built to last through storms, heat, and who knows what else. Military-grade solar panels. MyPatriotSupply.com/ungoverned. Check it out. Check out the Grid Doctor 3300 and your free solar panels today. If there was ever a time to get serious about protecting yourselves from blackouts, storms, etc., check out the Grid Doctor 3300 at mypatriotsupply.com/ungoverned. That is mypatriotsupply.com/ungoverned. mypatriotsupply.com/ungoverned. Okay. We're going to pause. We're going to sip some tea. And then we're going to get into this woke right stuff. Members of the military in the chat, I need your help. Active duty, veterans. Okay, I need your help on this. A dishonorable discharge from the United States military is not something that people can just kind of laugh off, correct? For those of you who are here. A dishonorable discharge is not something that you would say, so-and-so was in the military. They got dishonorably discharged. Who cares about that? No big deal. It's a pretty big deal, right? Would you say it's a pretty big deal? No benefits, as Bad Moon says. No favor. It's treated very similarly to a felony. A dishonorable discharge is a very big deal. If you are somebody, as Fonda says, a dishonorable follows you. It sticks with you for life, as Bad Moon says. If you are somebody in the military and you are dishonorably discharged, you will have a very hard time finding employment. It stays on your record. You will have a hard time with benefits. You will have a hard time doing just about anything. It can ruin your life. It can ruin your life. Candace Owens doesn't care about that. She doesn't care about that. Listen, I get it. She was popular. She still is very popular. She did a lot of good work, I would say, in the beginning, speaking out as a conservative, a black conservative, right, who has seen the light. But now she has gone so far off course. Look, again, I don't have a problem with disagreements. I am not saying that the MAGA movement should be a monolith. I argue against that every day, right? How many times? I always say, if I thought MAGA should be a monolith, I would have said, no, don't worry about it. The exceptions on farms and hotels, it's no big deal. I trust Trump, everything. He never makes a mistake. I'm not saying MAGA should be a monolith. I'm not saying we should always be in lockstep with each other. I'm not, trying to advocate for cultism. That's not what I'm advocating for. Civil disagreements, fine. Discussion online, fine. Passionate debate, fine. Trying to divide people into camps online, I don't like it, but whatever. It's the internet. It's not real life. Telling members of our military to get dishonorably discharged because of your beliefs on Israel-Iran is not fine. And that is exactly what Candace Owens said here in this clip. I told you she was crazy. I told you she was toxic. I told you she was a danger to this movement. And now she goes ahead and tells you herself. This dishonorably discharged thing that she says here is a disaster. And she does not care that it follows you for the rest of your life. Because Candace can go ahead and tell military members to get dishonorably discharged all she wants, right? Candace can say, yeah, go get a dishonorable discharge. Who cares? Because it doesn't impact her. She is a selfish, narcissistic, toxic presence on the right and should be roundly and unanimously denounced for this absurd take. Watch.
LG19 writes, serious question, will there be jobs or community military members can join when I get a dishonorable discharge for not contributing to delete people or my body for the interests of a certain foreign nation benefit? I love this question. I do believe that if war in Iran is on the agenda, and that appears so, get dishonorably discharged. Who cares? Who cares? Why should you go die in a foreign land? You now have the benefit of 2020. You can see, think about those men and those women who died because they were pitched that they were serving their country because there were weapons of mass destruction, right? They were serving their country because the Taliban, they were serving their country, whatever. And these people gave up their lives. And ask yourselves, for what? And the answer to that question is for the elites. They're like toy soldiers. And I would have said a few weeks ago that Trump would never do that to you. He would never just throw you into an Israeli war. But right now, our planes are flying in the sky, and things are going nuclear. So I don't have that confidence anymore, and I'm comfortable.
There you go. Yeah, get dishonorable discharged. Who cares? That's not something to mess around with. It's not a parking ticket. Encouraging members of our military to do that, that's not okay. You could even agree with her stance on Israel. That is not okay. And I think we could all agree with that. That is not okay. That is why we call them the woke right. Because when something doesn't go their way, they take their ball and go home. Now you're telling members of our military to get dishonorably discharged because who cares? I'm not pro-war. I don't like war. I don't want America to go to war. I don't. I would never advocate for members of our military to get dishonorably discharged as some form of protest. But narcissists don't think that way. Candace Owens, for those of you who don't know, she's never been wrong a day in her life, according to Candace Owens. There is no place for that in our movement. None. I'll show you what else there's no place for, right? What do we always make the joke that, right, it's not Israel, it's the Jews, right? We go, it's the Jews. Jason King sent me a meme he made. It was Chewbacca, and it just says, the Jews! It's like Chewbacca making his noise. Oh, no. Okay? And what do all the woke right pro-terror simps always say? Look at the chat. They're still very upset with Candace. Thank you. She did cross a line. She did cross a line. I may have to put a Chewbacca. I may have to, you know what I may have to do? I may have to take Jason's meme, right? Yeah. Oops. And I may have to, Jason's in the chat. I may have to take Jason's meme and I'll cut it out like the rooster, right? And we'll have Chewbacca show up like over here. Whenever it's the Jews, well, I'll put Chewbacca where the rooster is. And I'm going to do it. I'll have this ready for tomorrow. Jason, I will have this ready for tomorrow. I will put the Chewbacca meme to work here on the show. Thank you very much, Jason King. They always say it's not the Jews, it's Israel. It's not the Jews, it's AIPAC. It's not the Jews, it's Zionists. Myron Gaines disagrees with Myron Gaines now. Myron Gaines disagrees with the rest of those people who are trying to keep the mask on what they actually believe. This is a real post. Stop calling. This is okay. It's literally the opposite of what they've been saying for years now. We've been saying you guys hate Jews. Just say it. Just say it. It's not about Israel. It's not about Zionism. It's not about globalism. It's not about, corruption. It's you don't like Jews. That's why you throw the term Jew around like a pejorative, like an insult. This is literally Myron Gaines admitting it. Stop calling them globalists, elitists, Frankists, Sabatinists, communists, deep state, Zionists, oligarchists, Rothschild bankers, and neocons bringing us to war with Israel. Just say Jews. I told you these people hate Jews. These people hate Jews. It's not about Zionism. It's not about Israel as a government and a country with borders. It's not about corruption. It's not about neocons. It's about Jews, period. Thank you, Myron Gaines. Thank you so much for finally pointing out what we've been saying about you and your idiot followers for years. It's Jews. Thank you. No room for that on our movement. I'm not saying Jews are above criticism. Everybody can be criticized. Everybody. Nobody's perfect. But we told you this is what these people were doing. We told you that. People like Misfit, who take crap every day for calling this out. We told you it was about Jews. Now they're telling you. Believe them when they tell you and they show you who they really are. Please. Look, the silver lining of this whole conflict, whether it's October 7th, whether it's the Israel-Iran war, the silver lining of this whole thing is that the MAGA movement is going to go through a real healthy detox. Right? Sometimes I will kind of make it like, this analogy. Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to find out how bad things really are, right? It's the Dan Bongino, is it bad enough yet theory, right? Sometimes you got to really let yourself go to go, wow, I'm really out of shape. I got to clean things up, right? You got to have that wake-up call moment to say, it's time to shed some bad habits and get back on track, right? The silver lining of this whole Middle East conflict, whether it's October 7th, the Israel-Iran war, is that the MAGA movement will now go through a nice, healthy detox. A lot of the people who appeared to be, quote-unquote, on our side, right? Whether it's Candace, whether it's Myron, to a certain extent, the Haji twins, who I don't know if they're smart enough to know what they're doing. Their IQ is cold enough to keep your fridge running when a power outage happens. A lot of the people who appeared to be on our side have pulled the mask off and have exposed themselves over the last 5 or so days. They're not on our side anymore. They're just not. The Candaces of the world wanted to hijack MAGA like cancer hijacks your body. It is healthy for us. Don't feel guilty acknowledging this. It is healthy for us to acknowledge this and react accordingly. You saw how fast this whole sentiment spread. But I believe it has been getting significant pushback and it's been working. Ever since, look, when we started talking about the Tates in February, the amount of resistance that I got, what do you mean? He's on our side. Stop dividing. If you say something bad about them now, 90% of the comments are negative about Andrew Tate. It's okay to realize that there are people on our side that are not healthy for our movement. The best way is to continue trading up. When you have Alex Jones comparing Donald Trump to George W. Bush, it is time to render everything that guy says. I do it anyway. I take everything he says with a grain of salt. Okay, he got the fluoride thing right. Fine. He's off the rails, and he has been for a while. You see, you could see who your friends are. And I'm not saying to pledge blind loyalty to Donald Trump. I have never, ever in my life said you have to be 100% behind everything that Donald Trump does or else you're disloyal. I hate that crap too. But if you care about the idea that is MAGA, making America great again, not just about the man, and we love the man, who ran on it and made it mainstream, then we have to be ready to confront what are going to be very hard truths. That there are people on our side who we may have respected at one time who are not on our side. Not anymore. They've made their decision. You can make yours. And I'm not saying we should cancel these people. I'm not saying they should be banned off of social media. I'm saying see them for what and who they really are and react accordingly. They are sensationalists, they are clickbaiters, they are grifters, and they are narcissists. They do not have the best interest for our country at heart. They are thinking only about themselves. They are vile, they are hateful, they are reckless. Telling people to get dishonorably discharged in the military is reckless. And they deserve to be held accountable for their words, for their actions. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying cancel. I'm not saying call their sponsors and try and get them deplatformed. No. Let the free market do what it does. They will have, just like the mainstream media, they will have less influence as people figure out who they actually are. All right. Yesterday, this report came out from the Wall Street Journal. Now, I've been telling you guys to be paying attention to who? Axios, right? Because I happen to think that these leaks to Axios are strategic in nature. And I've heard that from a few people that I trust. And it's not me saying, trust me, bro. I just feel like when you put two and two together, it makes sense. Okay? But the Wall Street Journal put this thing out yesterday. And then Axios put this out yesterday. So the Wall Street Journal says that Donald Trump has approved the plan to attack Iran already, but is not ready to give the final order. And on Axios, and they both of these stories came out around the same time when the National Security Council meeting was happening. The big picture here on Axios says Trump wants to make sure that such an attack is really needed, wouldn't drag the U.S. into a prolonged war in the Middle East, and most of all, would actually achieve the objective of destroying Iran's nuclear programs. Quote, we're going to be ready to strike Iran. We're not convinced yet that we're necessary, and we want to be unnecessary, but I think the president is just not convinced that we are needed yet, a U.S. official said. If Trump enters the war, it almost certainly would be to destroy the Fordow nuclear site, the uranium enrichment site, which is built into a mountain. Donald Trump apparently feels uncertain about this, according to this Axios piece. And, by the way, Donald Trump said the following about the Wall Street Journal this morning. Quote, the Wall Street Journal has no idea what my thoughts are concerning Iran. By the way, nobody does. I believe he is sending mixed signals on purpose. But here it is right now. Here it is. This is a great video of Donald Trump telling you, look, again, the mixed messaging coming out of Axios lines up with what Donald Trump is saying. Watch this.
Have you been answered questions about whether you are moving closer, or you believe the U.S. is moving closer to striking Iranian nuclear facilities. Where's your mindset on that?
I can't say that, right? You don't seriously think I'm going to answer that question? Will you strike the Iranian nuclear component? And what time exactly, sir? Sir, would you strike it? Would you please inform us so we can be there and watch? I mean, you don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death and destruction. Why didn't you negotiate? I said to the people, why didn't you negotiate with me 2 weeks ago? You could have done fine. You would have had a country.
I may do it. I may not. I may do it. I may not do it. Nobody knows what I'm going to do. I may do it. I may not do it. Somebody else could do it. Who knows who's going to do it, but who knows if it's even going to be done. Mixed signals on purpose. Here's another one. Talking about negotiations. Again, if you're talking about negotiations, you don't seem necessarily on the precipice of an attack.
Look, they should have made the deal. I had a great deal for them. They should have made that deal. 60 days we talked about it, and in the end they decided not to do it, and now they wish they did it. And they want to meet, but it's a little late to meet, but they want to meet, and they want to come to the White House. They'll even come to the White House. So we'll see. I may do that, but it's a shame it could have been done the easy way.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily support Iran coming to the White House, considering there's an assassination, plots against him after Soleimani. But you see, he's still leaving the door open to a peaceful resolution. Doesn't sound like somebody to me who is ready to go to war. And it lines up with what Axios is saying. His words line up with what Axios is saying. I'm not saying Axios is a trustworthy outlet. I'm saying in this instance, his words line up with what Axios is reporting. And so I think the leaks to Axios are strategic in nature and are putting up an intentional smokescreen. And if that changes, I will let you know. All right, the LFA TV store, real quick, and then I want to tell you, we'll just celebrate Tennessee real quick. LFATV.us, you should see it on your screen right there. Click on that store tab. As you can see, there's a 20% off clearance sale, spring cleaning sale on the LFA TV website. That's right, 20% off of the mugs, 20% off of the shirts, 20% off the tumblers, 20% off the flannels, 20% off the coffee, 20% off the keychains, and everything else at the LFA TV store for spring cleaning. Sale ends in 11 days, June 30th. LFATV.us, 20% off spring cleaning sale, LFATV.us, LFATV.us, or JeremyHerald.com/store. Take advantage of the sale while the sale is still going. You got 11 days to do it. LFATV.us or JeremyHerald.com/store. Check it out. There's something for everybody there, and you get 20% off until June 30th. Okay. Tennessee deserves a big, can I say this? Tennessee deserves a big, beautiful round of applause. Can we say that? Are we allowed to say that? Yesterday, the Supreme Court, in a 6-3 decision, which is essentially 9-0 because Kagan, Sotomayor, and Ketanji, not a biologist, Brown Jackson. Ketanji Brown, those three voted against this, but 6-3, decisive ruling, upholding Tennessee's ban on sex changes and what they call gender-affirming care. I call it insanity-affirming mutilation. Gender-affirming care ban on minors. Supreme Court upheld Tennessee's law, SB 1, that prohibited child sex changes. The ruling was 6-3. Tennessee's law prohibiting certain medical treatments for transgender minors is not subject to heightened scrutiny under the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment and satisfies rational basis review. SB 1 prohibits healthcare providers from administering puberty blockers or hormones to minors for certain medical uses, regardless of a minor's sex. It also bans mutilation, those surgeries, chop, right? Bans that as well. Now, the reason why this is significant isn't just because it happened in Tennessee. It was written in such a way. We were with Michael Patrick Leahy when he was talking to Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti, the Attorney General of Tennessee, yesterday. And Michael Patrick Leahy made it clear, and General Skrmetti made it clear as well, that the Senate bill, the House bill, the entire law as a whole was written in such a way that it would withstand legal challenges all the way up to the Supreme Court. Not just because Tennessee wants to implement this law, but so that other states can now copy and paste this law if they want to do it. Because now there's precedent to keep this law in place. And it survived those challenges, and it survived those challenges decisively. This is a win for children. This is a win for sanity. And this is a win for the rest of the country. And it was the Tennessee General Assembly and the Tennessee Senate that in 2023, their very first piece of legislation that they started debating on passing was this piece of legislation. This was in January of 2023 or February of 2023, shortly after Brennan and I moved here. In the peak of the trans insanity, before Dylan Mulvaney was put on a beer can. Before all of that nonsense happened. They didn't do it when it was cool. They did it when it was needed. That's what courage looks like. That's what bravery looks like. That's what taking a stand looks like. And the stand that they took is now going to have national implications. If you are in a red state, Florida, Idaho, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Ohio, and you want a bill like this passed to ban gender-affirming care and genital mutilation for minors in your state, that bill exists. Copy, paste it. It will hold up against all challenges. There is precedent. Thank you, Tennessee. Thank you, Tennessee. Everybody in the chat, say thank you to Tennessee. No, it's a big win, and I was very happy to see that. And by the way, it couldn't have happened in a better month. Happy Pride Month, you freaks. You can no longer chop up children in our wonderful state in the name of your cult. Happy Pride Month to you. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching and listening. Jeremy Harrell is coming up next with Live from America for the next 2 hours. As President Trump says, we will never give up. We will never give in. And we will never, ever surrender. And if all else fails, we will just become ungovernable. Thank you. God bless you. God bless this one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. One final round of sharing before we sign off for the day. Hit the repost button, hit the like button. Share this with your friends. The like button is very important. The repost button is very important if you're watching over on X. Please go ahead and do that. It boosts us through the algorithm. Same on Rumble. Hit that like button. It boosts us up the charts. We greatly appreciate it. We're back tomorrow. Phone call second half of the show for our phone call Friday. Until then, have a great rest of your Thursday. I'm on Newsmax in the 4 o'clock hour Central Time, 5 o'clock Eastern. Until then, have a great rest of your day. In the words of John Fetterman, bang gavel. We'll see you tomorrow morning.